Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're going to be taking a look at a SwordCraft deck. This is more akin to Done at 5 kind of storm aggressive decks, although it is still very mid-range-esque in the way that it's played typically. There isn't too much variation between a mid-range sword deck and a aggro sword deck in the unlimited format in my opinion, as most of the early game is very similar, and it's only really changes here towards the later of the game, where you might run some 8 drops and stuff like that and more board floody cards, whereas this one will focus on basically final damage, which is why I do lean towards this being more aggro based than of course mid-range. So we're going to get right into this and check it out. So starting us off, we have a sword versus a rune. Not shocking at all, another runecraft deck. We are going second, which is a bit of a disadvantage for a deck like this, but that's not something we can't overcome with just pure damage. And this is a very nice hand. Dragonites is a little rough because we are looking for more low drops, but Quickblader and Perseus are absolutely fitting for this deck. Since we are going second, we get a good chance of drawing 2 cards. Let's see what we can get here. Ooh, Princess Vanguard going with Perseus is very nice, although I do think I make a small misplay by clicking the wrong card, which does happen occasionally. I would say 1 in about 20 games I'll make that mistake. Yeah, so I accidentally threw out Sky Commander instead of throwing out Princess Vanguard, which would have got us the extra damage in and a better body, but while it's a little bit of a disappointment, it's not the end of the world. As turns out, Centaur Vanguard will work here anyway. It just means we don't have that Celia to back us up later on. We still got an amazing opener. Which goes to show, even with a mistake like that in this deck, you can do an insane amount of damage very easily. So I did go for Leod, as with his Evo we can kill off the 2-1 without too much hassle, which did lead to the immediate concede. I just wanted to include this of course to show how aggressive this deck could really be. It will probably be a reasonably short video overall. So for our next match we are up against a sword, but even so, with how aggressive this deck is, a mirror match usually isn't even the biggest deal, even when going second, as it's really purely who gets luckier on the draw. No matter whether you go first or second, I found with this deck, while first definitely helps if you are exactly equally matched. It can really come make or break on the draws. But we do have the Vanguard and Centaur, which is great. It would be nice to get Perseus, which we did, as that can go with the Centaur Vanguard very easy. Or Centaur, I don't know. How do we pronounce those? Who really cares? As long as we all know what we're talking about, it's not a big deal. So we can go face for 3 damage. Kind of just leave this alone from here, which is good. Quickblader's not so fun, because that's a really good trade-off. And we need a really good turn 3 play, and Novice Trooper is a very nice one, a 2-2, so getting even more damage in early. Vagabond Frog also looks really good, especially this turn since they did go face for 1 damage. So a nice little Evo, making Perseus a bit stronger and more of a target, so that of course our 2-2 can hopefully survive. That overall would allow us to get a little more damage than Evoing the 2-2. Is of course provided it survived, but since they are going for White Paladin here, it most likely isn't going to. At least they did have to trade off with that. But now we have to deal with them, so this should be a fairly interesting one. So Leod's actually going to be quite nice, since we can use him to actually get rid of both 1-1s and then ambush him again, which will be great. We can even use the Frog to get 1 extra damage in, and even Quickblader for another extra bit of damage, bringing him down even further. Maybe taking something out, but either way would have been fine. Since with Leod and the Frog we've got 6 damage on its own, so we only really need to add something from our hand to really deal the damage here. As I mentioned, makes this a reasonably quick video since we've already won the game here. Really, Princess, the Dragonites, it wouldn't have mattered. Any aggro would have been fine and enough to win us the game. I did want to keep this video reasonably short since Aggro Sword doesn't change much. So as always, Aggro Sword is just Aggro Sword. The only really newer card we've got is Ivory Sword Dance to add into it. It's a nice card, which does a good job with the ambushes, which is always the best thing to use it with, but it's still just Ivory Sword Dance. It's not super crazy. It's a nice little buff along with the damage to clear stuff, but overall most of this deck is always going to be focused around its storm damage and how quick it can finish games, and it's really good for stuff like that with missions. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more content. You'll find the link to this deck in the description below. Until next time, see ya.